Think about the number of things you've wanted to do, the ideas, the changes, the habits you knew would evolve your life, and how many of them you postponed in the name of timing. You thought you were being wise. But what if you were simply being controlled by fear? Not the loud kind, the quiet, convincing kind, the kind that wears a suit and uses words like logic and patience and timing. That's the most dangerous kind because it sounds responsible. It sounds mature. But really, it's delay dressed up as discipline. You're not waiting on a sign. You are the sign. Your desire, your desire, your desire, your urgency, your dissatisfaction. Those are the signs. But you ignore them because they are something of you. Because they demand you act before you feel fully ready. And that's the truth most people never admit. No one ever feels ready. No matter how much time you give yourself, no matter how much you prepare, there's always more doubt, always more doubt, always more unknowns, always more reasons to pause. But life doesn't wait. The clock doesn't slow down to match your indecision. Opportunities come and go, not because you are unworthy, but because you are unwilling. And you'll find that the pain of inaction always lingers longer than the pain of trying and failing. Regret echoes. It shows up years later disguised as what if, disguised as resentment, as restlessness, as emptiness. And it all comes from believing the lie of not now. What happens when you stop believing in the right time something powerful? You take back your authority. You stop outsourcing your progress to circumstances. You realize that life bends not to those who wait, but to those who move, who decide, who begin. Start before the plan is perfect. Speak before you feel confident. Act before the path is clear. Because truth unfolds through motion. The longer you wait, the heavier it gets. Doubt doesn't fade, it multiplies. The more you hesitate, the more you believe you're not capable. And that becomes your reality. Not because it's true, but because you chose to believe it through inaction. This is what the illusion of the right time steals from you. It convinces you to pause when you should leap, to hold back when your soul is begging to be set free, to delay your growth, your evolution, your potential for a comfort that doesn't even comfort you. You sit in stillness, restless. You drown in your own potential, never actualized. Not because you lacked skill, not because you lacked worth, but because you believed in a lie that said, not yet. But what if you flipped the script? What if instead of asking, is this the right time? Is this the right time? You asked, what happens if I don't begin now? The answer is sobering. Nothing. Nothing changes. Nothing grows. Nothing improves. The life you want remains an idea locked behind a gate labeled Sunday. And that's the tragedy that so many live their lives in the waiting room of a dream they'll never walk into. All because they waited for the perfect time that never existed. You must be bold. You must rebel against the comfort of hesitation. You must act when everything in you says wait. Because action is not just movement, it's liberation. It breaks the illusion. It rewrites the story. It silences the excuses. The right time is not coming. It's already here. You're just not using it. Push yourself. Make it work. Not when it's convenient, not when you feel ready. But now, precisely because you don't. Discomfort is not your enemy. It is your invitation to rise. But most people run from it. They shrink when it appears. They label it as something negative, something to avoid at all costs. But what if discomfort was never meant to harm you? What if it was a sacred signal that you are exactly where you need to be on the threshold of growth? You see, we've been conditioned to believe that life should feel good all the time, that happiness means ease, that success should come smoothly, and that anything that feels hard is a sign we're on the wrong path. But that's a lie, a dangerous one. Because the truth is anything worth becoming, any real transformation requires you to pass through the gates of discomfort. Not once, repeatedly. Discomfort is the birthplace of change. It is the space between who you were and who you're becoming. And it is not there to destroy you. It is there to strip away everything that no longer serves you. Your doubts, your excuses, your limitations, your old story. Think about the most meaningful shifts you've experienced in your life. Did they come when everything was comfortable? Did they arrive wrapped in ease and convenience? Or did they emerge from pain, from pressure, from uncertainty, from moments that stretched you further than you thought you could go? That's the paradox. The worst days often plant the seeds for your best chapters. But most people avoid the discomfort, and in doing so, they avoid the very process that could evolve them. They numb it with distraction. They drown it with entertainment. They silence it with delay. And every time they run from it, they reinforce the belief that they are not strong enough to face it. But you are. You don't rise in comfort. You rise through discomfort. Through early mornings when your body wants to sleep. Through hard conversations you'd rather escape. Through silence. Through uncertainty. Through pain that doesn't always make sense at the time. It's in those moments, the ones you want to run from, that you are actually being shaped. Not punished, but prepared. Not broken, but rebuilt. Discomfort doesn't come to push you down. It comes to reveal to you the parts of yourself you've forgotten. Your resilience, your strength, your determination. Every muscle in your body grows through resistance. It tears before it rebuilds. And your spirit is no different. When you encounter resistance, it's not a message to stop. It's a signal that growth is happening, that the current version of you is being called to evolve. The question is not how do I avoid discomfort, but rather how can I move with it? How can you learn to welcome it as an ally, not fear it as a threat? The moment you stop running from discomfort is the moment you reclaim your power, because now pain doesn't control you. Fear doesn't paralyze you. Doubt doesn't define you. You begin to understand that growth and pain often wear the same mask. And to reach one, you must be willing to pass through the other. Discomfort will ask things of you. It will ask you to be honest about your excuses. It will ask you to stay consistent when motivation fades. It will ask you to walk forward, even when you're uncertain of where the path leads. It will strip away your comfort zones and expose the raw, unpolished truth of who you really are and who you could become if you stopped hiding. And yes, it hurts. But it hurts in a way that heals, like a fire that burns away the dead parts of a forest so that new life can emerge. It is a necessary burn, a meaningful ache, the price of becoming who you are meant to be. Don't fear the discomfort. Don't curse it. Thank it for showing up, for knocking on your door, for asking you to rise when you would rather rest, for reminding you that you still have more to give, more to discover, more to become. You are not fragile. You've simply been told that you should be comfortable all the time. But life does not reward the comfortable. It rewards the courageous, the ones who feel the fear and walk anyway. The ones who feel the pressure and grow anyway. The ones who feel the discomfort and use it as fuel, as fire, as a reminder that they are alive and that something powerful is happening beneath the surface. Because on the other side of discomfort is not just change, it is transformation. Not just improvement, but evolution. Proof that discomfort is not your enemy. It is your greatest invitation. Step into it. Let it refine you. Let it stretch you. Let it call out the highest version of yourself. The version that doesn't wait for ease. The version that doesn't seek permission. The version that rises because it hurts. You do not become strong. You uncover the strength that was always buried beneath fear. This idea is more than poetic. It's foundational to how we grow, evolve, and reclaim ourselves. Most people believe that strength is something you gain from the outside. That you have to chase it, build it, construct it like a wall from bricks of experience. But true strength, real unshakable personal power, has always been within you. The problem isn't that you're weak. The problem is that fear has buried your strength so deeply that you've forgotten where to look. We've been taught that strength is about becoming someone new. But the truth is, it's about returning to who you were before the world convinced you that you weren't enough. Before life told you to be quiet, be small, be safe. Before your failures, your heartbreaks, your doubts all piled up and cast shadows over the light you used to carry so effortlessly. Children don't question their ability to try. They fall, get up, fall again, and still reach forward with wonder and fire. They don't think, what if I'm not good enough? They just act, just move, just trust. And that trust is what we lose as we grow older. We begin to listen to the voices external and internal that tell us to doubt. And in that doubt, we stop reaching. We stop showing up. We stop risking. And without risk, our strength gathers dust. But strength never leaves you. It waits. It waits behind the fear, behind the overthinking, behind the hesitation. It waits for the moment you finally realize that fear doesn't need to disappear for you to act. It only needs to be ignored. Because fear is loud, but it is rarely accurate. It speaks in warnings, not truth. And if you listen to it too long, you'll start to believe that you're incapable, that your discomfort is a stop sign, when really it's a green light. You don't become strong by avoiding life's storms. You become strong by standing in them and discovering that the wind doesn't break you. It awakens you. It reminds you of everything you've been holding back. It pushes you to the edge of yourself. And it's there, in that edge, in that tension, where your strength is finally revealed. You won't find your power in comfort. You won't find it while waiting for approval. You find it when everything feels uncertain and you still choose to act. That's where your strength lives, in choice, in movement, in courage. Not loud, showy courage, but quiet courage. The kind that whispers, "I'll keep going," even when your legs shake and your heart doubts. And here's something no one tells you. Your strength doesn't always look strong. Sometimes it looks like crying and still waking up the next morning. Sometimes it looks like failing publicly and deciding to try again anyway. Sometimes it looks like walking away from something everyone else thinks you should stay in simply because your soul says no more. That's strength too. It's not always about lifting the heaviest weight. Sometimes it's about holding yourself upright when life keeps trying to knock you over. And in those moments, you don't suddenly become strong. You finally see that you are strong because you acted when it was hard, because you didn't quit, because you dare to believe in yourself one more time than you believe the fear. Strength is not something waiting for you at the end of some long, perfect journey. It's not a reward. It's not a prize. It's your inheritance, something that's been yours from the start. But you've got to stop waiting for it to reveal itself. You've got to dig for it, especially when life feels heavy. Because that's when you need it most. And that's when it steps forward, not in easy moments, but in the pressure. It's not about waiting until you feel ready. It's not about becoming someone else. It's about peeling away the layers of fear, doubt, and conditioning that have tricked you into thinking you're less than you are. And when those layers fall, what's left is pure, real, powerful, not perfect, but authentic. And there is nothing stronger than authenticity fully owned. When you stop chasing strength and start trusting that it already exists within you, everything changes. You stop looking outward for permission. You stop asking the world to validate your worth. You stop waiting for the fear to vanish before you move, and instead, you start moving through the fear. You act anyway. You speak anyway. You try anyway. Not because you're fearless, but because you're brave. Not because it's easy, but because you finally realize that the only thing standing between you and the life you want is the belief that you're not strong enough to live it. You are. You always were. You don't need to become something you're not. You only need to stop hiding what you already are. Pushing yourself isn't about forcing. It's about remembering what you were born capable of. There's a difference between pressure that crushes and pressure that awakens. The world has made the idea of pushing yourself sound harsh, almost violent, as if to push means to punish, to break, to drag yourself through suffering for the sake of ambition. But that's not what this is about. It's not about forcing your life into a mold or burning yourself out in the name of success. It's about reaching into yourself deeper than you ever have before and pulling out the version of you that's been asleep, beneath the noise and the doubt. It's about waking up the power that's already inside you, the strength, the clarity, the drive, and moving forward with it even when it's uncomfortable. We live in a world obsessed with comfort. Everything is designed to make things easier, faster, softer. But ease is not the same as peace. And comfort is not the same as fulfillment. In fact, the more you numb your struggle, the more disconnected you become from your own potential. You weren't meant to live passively. You weren't born to drift or repeat empty routines day after day. There's a fire in you. Maybe it's quiet right now. That voice is not your enemy. It's just outdated programming. And pushing yourself means choosing not to obey it. You don't need to push with aggression. You don't need to push with self-hate. You push with love, with commitment, with the quiet promise that you will no longer betray the part of you that knows what you're capable of. Every time you act, even when it's difficult, especially when it's difficult, you send a message to yourself. I trust you. I believe in you. I will not abandon you again. This is the kind of push that elevates you. The kind that calls out your hidden talents, your deep wisdom, your untapped courage. Not all at once, not a lightning bolt of transformation, but slowly, consistently, with every uncomfortable action. Every moment you rise when you could have rested. Every time you show up when it would have been easier to disappear. That's what it means to push yourself to show up for your own becoming. And no one can do this for you. No one can carry the weight of your purpose. No one can take your first step or your next or the one after that. People can guide you, inspire you, support you. But at the end of the day, it's you and only you who decides to stop waiting and start becoming. That decision is quiet. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't need fanfare. It happens in the small moments. When you choose discipline over distraction, when you choose depth over convenience, when you choose growth over comfort, pushing yourself means honoring the part of you that's still hungry, the part that refuses to settle endless, the part that knows your life isn't meant to be a repetition of survival, but an unfolding of purpose. You don't have to climb a mountain today. You don't have to become the most disciplined person on earth. You just have to take one more step than you did yesterday, and then do it again tomorrow and again until the version of you that once felt like a distant dream becomes the version you now see in the mirror. You already have everything you need. The strength, the vision, the intuition you've just forgotten. Life, pain, fear, they've covered it up with layers of hesitation. But those layers can be peeled away. Every time you act with courage, another layer falls. Every time you push past resistance, another part of your power is revealed. So no, you're not forcing yourself. You're not punishing yourself. You're simply remembering. Remembering that you are capable of showing up even when it's hard. That your excuses are not stronger than your purpose. That your pain does not have the final word. That you don't need to wait for the perfect moment or the perfect version of yourself to begin. Push yourself gently, relentlessly, compassionately, not to prove anything to the world, but to prove one thing to yourself. You are always meant to rise. The path won't light up until you begin walking. Motion creates meaning. We often wait for clarity as if it's a gift we'll receive before we act. We want the road to be illuminated before we take the first step. We want to see the whole picture, understand the whole journey, and feel perfectly prepared before we move. But life doesn't work that way. The truth is the path remains invisible until your feet begin to move. The answers don't come before the action. They come through the action. Many people spend their lives frozen in thought, paralyzed by uncertainty, stuck in their minds, rehearsing every possibility, every fear, every hypothetical failure. But no amount of thinking ever substitutes for doing. You can plan forever. You can dream forever. You can visualize every detail. But none of it matters until you move, until you decide, until you step forward, even when the direction is unclear, even when the outcome is unknown. Waiting for the perfect moment is how you slowly kill your potential. It's how you convince yourself that hesitation is wisdom when it's really just fear in disguise. You don't gain courage from standing still. You don't build momentum by overthinking. And you don't discover purpose by sitting on the sidelines of your own life. Meaning reveals itself in movement. When you move, you learn. When you move, you adapt. When you move, you begin to see. It's easy to believe that people who are living their dreams had it all figured out before they began. That they were confident, certain, ready. But that's rarely the case. What set them apart wasn't clarity. It was motion. They moved when they were scared. They acted without knowing all the steps. They trusted that the path would appear piece by piece, breath by breath, as they continued walking. There's something sacred in motion. Maybe it flickers and threatens to go out some days, but it's still there. It always has been. To push yourself doesn't mean to become someone new. It means to return to who you were before the world told you to settle. Before you believe the lie that you're only worthy when you're validated, before you started playing small because it felt safer than being seen. You push yourself not because you hate where you are, but because you remember that you are meant for more. You don't need to become extraordinary. You just need to stop pretending that you aren't already powerful. And yes, it's hard. Growth is never gentle. There will be resistance from your environment, from people who don't understand your path, but mostly from yourself. Your mind will try to pull you back into safety, into what is familiar. That voice will whisper, "You've done enough." When you've barely started, it will say you're too tired. When you've only scratched the surface of your energy, it will tell you this is good enough. When your soul is begging for more, even a small step forward shifts your entire perspective. It changes the way you see your surroundings, and it changes the way you see yourself. You go from imagining to becoming, from hoping to doing, from stuck to free, and that shift, that transition from inertia to intention, is what begins to light the way. Because the path was never supposed to be visible from the start. If it was, it wouldn't demand faith. It wouldn't require courage. And courage is what transforms us. Courage is what pulls us into alignment with something deeper than comfort, with purpose, with authenticity, with evolution. And that doesn't come through passively waiting. It comes through participation. You weren't meant to have it all figured out before you began. You were meant to begin, and in doing so, figure it out. That's how growth works. That's how wisdom is built. You fall, you adjust, you stumble, you learn, you take wrong turns, and somehow those wrong turns lead you to exactly where you needed to go. But none of that happens unless you move. Every moment you spend waiting for the perfect path to be revealed is a moment you are denying yourself the chance to create it. You're not just a follower of some predetermined road. You are a builder of it. You carve it out with each step. You shape it with each decision. And that's where the magic is, not in knowing exactly where you're going, but in discovering it as you walk. Some people will never know who they could have become because they never took the first step. They let fear convince them to stay still. They waited for signs that never came. They looked for guarantees that life never offers, and in doing so, they silenced their potential. Don't let that be your story. Understand that motion is messy. It's imperfect. It will not always feel graceful or confident, but that's not the point. The point is to begin to interrupt the cycle of hesitation, to remind yourself that progress doesn't require perfection, only persistence. You will make mistakes. You will question yourself. You will have days when the fog is thick and nothing feels certain. But if you keep walking, the fog clears. The doubts lose power. The path becomes real. Not because it was there all along, but because you dared to move forward. And with each step, something beautiful happens. You start to feel more alive, not because everything is easy, but because you are engaged, because you're participating in your own becoming. And in that movement, you discover what matters. You begin to feel what's true. You touch the edge of something sacred, your own potential being realized, not all at once, but moment by moment. Don't wait for the light. Be the light. Walk even in the dark. Trust that your movement will spark clarity. Trust that momentum will give birth to direction. Trust that meaning is not something you find. It's something you make start walking. Even if it's slow, even if it's shaky, even if you don't know where the road will lead, because the road is not what matters most, you are. And with every step, you're becoming the very person who is ready for what comes next. The path doesn't reveal itself before you walk it. It reveals itself because you do. Pain is a teacher. Procrastination is a liar. One pushes you forward, the other keeps you stuck. One is real, raw and uncomfortable, but honest. The other is smooth, seductive and comfortable, but full of deceit. And if you're not careful, you'll spend your entire life avoiding the teacher and listening to the liar. That's how most people live. They delay, they excuse, they wait. Not because they don't want to grow, but because growth is painful and procrastination feels safe. Pain doesn't hide its intentions. It's clear about what it wants from you. When something hurts emotionally, mentally, or physically, it signals that something needs to change. Pain isn't the enemy. It's the message. It points to the wound, to the imbalance, to the truth you've been ignoring. It forces you to stop lying to yourself. It demands your attention in ways comfort never can. And yet, the moment pain arises, most people turn away. They reach for distraction, comfort, excuses, anything to avoid the lesson pain is trying to deliver. Procrastination, on the other hand, never yells. It whispers. It tells you there's time. It tells you you are tired and maybe you'll feel better tomorrow. It convinces you that thinking about your dreams is almost the same as working on them. It praises your planning and your preparation, but keeps you from taking action. It rewards you with temporary relief. A few more minutes of ease, one less uncomfortable task, but it charges a price later. Anxiety, regret, wasted years, and a quiet inner knowing that you've betrayed yourself again. Pain teaches discipline. It teaches patience, resilience, awareness. It teaches you who you are when everything feels heavy and hard. It strips away illusion and leaves you with something real. You never forget the lessons pain gives you because you earn them. You walk through them. You bleed through them. And once you face your pain, you become someone new, someone who knows they can survive it. That kind of wisdom can't be learned through comfort. It can't be downloaded or faked. It must be lived. The strange part is procrastination often creates more pain than the thing we were trying to avoid. We fear the pain of doing, but ignore the pain of not doing. And it always comes. The longer you put something off, the heavier it gets. The task you avoided grows in your mind. The fear multiplies, the pressure builds, the guilt lingers, and eventually you don't just feel behind, you feel defeated. But by then, procrastination has already done its damage. It's stolen your time, your focus, and most dangerously, your self-trust. That's what procrastination really takes from you. Trust in your own word. Every time you say, "I'll do it tomorrow," and don't follow through, you teach yourself that your words mean nothing. You begin to doubt your ability to follow through. And soon the smallest tasks feel overwhelming, not because they're hard, but because you no longer trust yourself to complete them. But pain, real pain, builds that trust back. Because when you face the thing you've been avoiding, whether it's an uncomfortable truth, a difficult decision, a necessary change, you show yourself what you're capable of. You prove to yourself that you can sit in the fire and not be burned by it. That you can choose the harder path and come out stronger on the other side. The more you run from pain, the more it controls you. But the more you face it, the more power you gain. You stop fearing hard work. You stop resenting discomfort. You stop mistaking struggle for failure. And you begin to understand that every painful moment, every broken piece, every difficult chapter, all of it can be transformed into something meaningful if you're willing to learn. Pain tells you this matters. Procrastination says it can wait. One pulls you toward growth, the other lulls you back to sleep. And here's the hardest truth. No one can make that choice for you. You have to choose the teacher. You have to choose pain when comfort is more tempting. You have to choose action when your mind offers you 10 reasons to delay. And you have to do it again and again until it becomes who you are. That doesn't mean pushing yourself to collapse. It doesn't mean embracing suffering for the sake of pride. It means allowing pain to do what it was always meant to do. Wake you up, move you forward, make you honest. Because there is no progress without pain. There is no achievement without effort. There is no transformation without discomfort. If you want to grow, let pain teach you. Listen to what it's trying to tell you. Use it. Channel it. Let it break the illusion that life should always be easy or that you'll be ready one day. Let it burn away your excuses and your fears. Let it shape you into someone who shows up, not because it's convenient, but because it's necessary, and silence the liar. The voice of procrastination will always offer a way out, a softer seat, a later time, an easier day. Don't take the offer because every time you do, you stay the same. And deep down, you know you were never meant to stay the same. Pain is not your punishment, it's your compass. And procrastination, that's just the voice trying to keep you lost. No one is coming to save you. That isn't a threat, it's a revelation. It's the awakening of power within you. The moment you stop waiting for someone else to fix your life, to motivate you, to carry you across the finish line is the moment you begin to truly live. It's harsh at first. The realization that no mentor, no friend, no family member, no partner can walk the road for you. But in that solitude, in that deep acknowledgement, there is freedom. Because if no one is coming to save you, then you are the one you've been waiting for. For too long, people are conditioned to believe that rescue will come, that the right opportunity will appear, the right person will notice them, the perfect moment will land gently in their lap. It's a comforting lie. It lets you sleep a little longer. It gives you someone or something to blame, but the cost is steep. You give away your power piece by piece, waiting, hoping, doubting, and in the process doing nothing. This mindset keeps people stuck. It traps them in cycles of inaction. I'll start when I have support. I'll change when they understand me. I'll move forward when life gets easier. That day doesn't come, or worse, it does come, but because you weren't moving, you weren't ready, and you miss it. The truth is everything you think you need from someone else already lives within you. You need to be summoned, called forth, not by the world, but by yourself. You need to look in the mirror and say, no more waiting, no more excuses. I will carry myself now. This is where real strength begins, not in pretending you don't struggle, but in deciding that your struggle won't stop you. Not in denying your wounds, but in refusing to let them define you. Not in waiting for a hand to lift you, but in planting your feet and rising anyway. It's not an easy path. That's the price of freedom. When you take full responsibility for your life, there's no one left to blame. You have to face your own laziness, your own fears, your own patterns of self-sabotage. And it's uncomfortable. But here's the miracle hidden in the pain. Once you take that responsibility, no one can take it from you. You own your journey. You own your growth. You own your transformation. This mindset changes everything. You stop asking for permission to pursue your purpose. You stop needing validation to feel worthy. You stop seeking comfort in others and start creating power within yourself. You don't wait for motivation. You build it. You don't wait for clarity. You act and find it along the way. You don't ask, can I do this? You say, I will do this even if no one believes I can. And you do it not with arrogance, but with quiet certainty. The kind that grows when you finally realize that nothing outside of you can define your worth or limit your potential. Because when it's just you, no cheering crowd, no applause, no external reward, and you still show up, you still push forward, you still do the work. That's when you become unstoppable. Many people live their entire lives waiting for someone to unlock the door, not realizing they've always held the key, one that was always there waiting behind the excuses. This self is not louder, it's clearer. It doesn't crave comfort, it craves purpose. And as you continue to push the lines between who you are and who you could be begin to blur, you start living in alignment with your future instead of your past. But don't expect applause. Growth is often a lonely path. When you begin to push, others may not understand. They may mock your discipline, question your ambition, or label your new habits as obsession. Let them. Your journey is not for them, it's for the voice within you that refuses to be silenced. People will tell you to rest, to slow down, to take it easy. And yes, rest is sacred, but so is effort. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself is to demand more from yourself. Not out of shame, but out of reverence for your time, for your gift, for your life. Every day you delay is a day you trade your power for passivity. And every day you push, even a little, is a vote for the future you. These votes compound. They build identity, momentum, unshakable belief. Eventually pushing becomes your new baseline. What once felt impossible becomes routine. And what once scared you becomes your starting point. That's the real reward of pushing yourself. Not just achievement, but evolution. You get to watch yourself outgrow the limitations you once lived inside. You get to witness your own becoming. There is no feeling in the world like realizing you are no longer who you used to be. Not because life changed, but because you did. When the world tells you to settle, don't. When your mind tempts you with excuses, resist. When comfort calls, decline the invitation. Push yourself, make it work. Not because it's easy, not because it's guaranteed, but because this is your life, and the version of you you're capable of becoming is waiting. The door is open, but only you can walk through it. Here is the conclusion of the entire speech on the theme. Push yourself, make it work in the style of Alan Watts without mentioning him. And so, after everything is said, it all returns to one simple truth. You either rise or you remain. No one else can breathe discipline into your lungs. No one can wake up for you, move for you, believe for you. This is your burden. Yes, but also your blessing, because in the silence between comfort and greatness lies your choice. You can keep waiting for the perfect moment, or you can realize that you are the moment, messy, flawed, but capable. The life you desire is not waiting for a miracle. It's waiting for movement, for a spark, a push, that extra hour, that deeper breath, that uncomfortable stretch into the unknown. No one becomes extraordinary by accident. They decide again and again. Whatever is calling you, answer it. Whatever is resisting you, confront it. Whatever you keep postponing, begin it. Push yourself. Make it work. Not just for the goal, but for the becoming. For the version of you that is quietly screaming to be released. You don't need permission. You just need to begin. Because in the end, the only thing more painful than pushing through resistance is living with the regret of never trying. But the opposite is true. Indiscipline leads to chaos. It creates lives filled with regret, missed potential, and confusion. Discipline creates structure, and within that structure you find freedom. Freedom from doubt, freedom from indecision, freedom from the loop of I could have and I almost did. When you become disciplined, your mind changes. You begin to trust yourself. You begin to recognize that your time, your energy, and your focus are sacred. You stop trading your power for comfort. You stop chasing instant pleasure, and you start creating real peace. The kind that comes from knowing you are becoming the person you were meant to be. But here's the key. Discipline is not about perfection, it's about return. You will fall. You will miss days. You will feel weak. That's part of the journey. Discipline isn't broken when you stumble. It's broken when you don't come back. The power lies in your return. Every time you recommit, even after a setback, you rebuild your self-trust. You tell yourself, I may fall, but I rise faster. Now you will reach moments where your old self begs you to quit, where your comfort zone calls your name like a lullaby. But you must remember, you are not training for ease. You are training for excellence, and excellence is not a mood, it's not a phase. It's a way of living, a way of meeting the day with presence, a way of rising with intention, a way of loving yourself enough to not let yourself settle. So yes, discipline is hard. It costs you your laziness, your distractions, your comfort. But what it gives you in return is beyond measure. It gives you clarity, strength, peace, identity. It gives you a life you can be proud of, a life where you didn't wait to feel ready, didn't wait for perfect circumstances. You created readiness by moving. You created strength by showing up. And in time, the habits you once resisted become the habits that restore you. The actions that once felt like effort become your new normal. You don't have to battle yourself every morning because now you are the kind of person who does what's needed. The person who doesn't wait, the person who builds, who focuses, who chooses vision over noise. Discipline is not a punishment. It is the most beautiful form of self-respect. When you are disciplined, you are not being hard on yourself. You are being true to yourself. To the part of you that knows there's more, that believes in what's possible, that refuses to go to the grave with unspoken dreams and wasted days, push yourself. Not because you are behind, but because you are capable. Make it work. Not because life is easy, but because you were made for challenge. And every time you meet it with discipline, you prove it. Somewhere deep inside you, there is a voice, a quiet one that doesn't shout, it doesn't panic, it doesn't compete with the noise of the world, but it's always there. It whispers who you could become. It shows you flashes of what's possible, not in the form of dreams floating in the clouds, but through the subtle ache of untapped potential, the knowing that you were built for something greater than what you've settled into. The problem is most people don't listen. They get too used to the noise, the chaos, the urgency, the expectations of others. They start identifying more with their distractions than their direction. And the voice, it doesn't go away, but it gets buried beneath layers of doubt, fear, and fatigue. It gets drowned out by the belief that there will always be more time, more chances, more clarity, more motivation later. But later is where most dreams go to die. You see, potential doesn't wait forever. It is a seed, and like any seed, if you do not plant it, if you do not water it, nurture it, and expose it to light, it rots. Potential is not permanent. It is a doorway, and doors close. The only way to honor your potential is to push yourself, not recklessly, not through punishment, but through conscious, relentless effort. You will never become who you were meant to be by staying where it's safe. Growth is uncomfortable. It demands that you leave the familiar, that you step into tension, that you sit with fear, and keep walking anyway. Every version of you that is greater than the current one exists just beyond the resistance you've been avoiding. It is so easy to romanticize greatness, to admire those who have shaped extraordinary lives. But what we often forget is that they were once ordinary, confused, undisciplined, insecure. The difference wasn't magic.